So a little while ago, I was talking to someone online about how I believe that you can train adults to be fluent in the language of music in the way that I am. So I can, look at the score and hear it play in my head. If you play me a chord, even a complex one, I know what it is, I can repeat it, that sort of thing. Those sort of skills, those kind of fluent skills. I believe you can train adults to do it. I trained myself to do it from the age of 9, which, okay, is not an adult, but it's not like pre-5, which this person I was having the argument with really believed it's the sort of thing you have to learn pre-5. Now, I said that I would agree with that if it wasn't for the fact that we already understand music, and we did acquire that understanding of musical language pre-5. We are kind of partially mute. We just need to be able to understand the actual logical patterns of music. And that's not so difficult. As long as we don't resort to complicated theory, which is too dense, keep it nice and simple. I use a nice, simple model. We can do it. We can become fluent in the language of music. However, I also agreed with this person in that I think to achieve this fluency, to really achieve the right state, if you like, for the components, the elements and principles of musical language to stick and to become properly internalized. In order for that to happen, you've got to have the mindset of a child when you practice. And the problem is that most adults tend to practice in a rather performative way. They've got external goals. You've got to be like a child, just playing, just experimenting, and of course expressing yourself, because it's a language. I believe music is a language. So to learn music that way, we need to find that kind of very innocent self-expression like a child. So in this video, I'm going to think about some of the ways in which we can do that. We can get into that state, that childlike, innocent, expressive state that is so necessary for musical fluency to happen, for the components of the language of music, the vocabulary, if you like, and the syntax of the language of music to really internalize, to really stick and become part of you. So, not least in importance is the need to do simple things to begin with, really, really simple things. And I don't mean like simple to play, because a Bach minuet might be set for grade 1 and be very simple to play in terms of execution, and yet the language, the musical language used, can be very sophisticated and even very complex. So it's not about the number of notes or the difficulty of execution. In fact, something like this is much simpler than any grade 1 piece, and yet there I was playing all over the keys. So what's going on? I'm not playing a little nursery rhyme here. I'm not playing some simple tune that's childlike in that sense. This is kind of a different kind of innocence. It's the return to innocence. It's a return to the childlike innocence that an adult feels. So in a way, I would say it's kind of deeper. It's a deep state. And you've got to find that state where you're truly expressing yourself. You're really feeling the music. Deep, as in cosmic, as in ageless, timeless. So the flow of the music is the thing that I talk about all the time. This is something obviously that we feel through the rhythm. This understanding of rhythm as something flexible and flowing, but with structure, is very, very important. So I teach this idea of the matrix. I say a little mantra to help us understand the structure of the matrix, to give us a bit of a prompt for the mind to see where we are, to understand and perceive where we are in that structure, which is that's the adult bit of what we learn. We learn to focus on the structures. I say adult, I think it's still the sort of thing a child could learn, but it's something that at least the adult learner can understand. You have to focus on these structures and know where you are. Problem is that people generally don't focus very well on the structures because they've got other ideas of music. So what's going on if I get rid of all these other ideas of music being outside of me and I just think of the groove structure and I say inward rhythm, flowing rhythm, inward rhythm, flowing rhythm. That's the common time structure. What's going on here? I'm sort of saying it like a poem. I've got the awareness of the structure, but I'm saying it with this poetic feel, this childlike poetic feel. And that's so important to do that. Not to be like a metronome, not to be interpreting it in some kind of sophisticated way, but simply saying it in this very childlike poetic way, like a very regular poem, like a nursery rhyme almost. Although it doesn't feel like a nursery rhyme when I play rhythm cells on that. And if I play rhythm cells, I could choose two places, because the tonal idea that we have to really cover in my learning is, in my teaching, is home and away. This idea of tension and resolution, we resolve back home. So in tonality, this idea of tonal center, in this case I'm going to make the note C the tonal center. This feels very, very resolved, very home. G, the fifth, is away. So if I just make up rhythms on just two tonal centers, inward rhythm, flowing rhythm, inward rhythm, flowing. I didn't even resolve home. The way the adult mind designs things and tries to get results, you could easily think, I've got to resolve and at the end and go back. You don't. You can do anything you want, as long as you're following these very simple rules. Now, you notice that actually that doesn't sound childish in that nursery rhyme sense, even though I'm doing that. It kind of sounds deep. It's this kind of cosmic quality. Maybe if I was singing, I was learning to sing fluently, I could, set up that feeling of that rooted sound and then find the fifth, find the root, resolve to the root, and practice very similar things to what I did on the piano, just moving the voice between these two tonal places, mapping those places, knowing where they are. Just as I need to know where they are in the keyboard map, I can map them in my voice and know where they are. And this knowing where we are in a structure sticks. We learn it. It becomes embedded in us. We learn the vocabulary because we are feeling it so deeply and meaning it. If I decide to do a whole harmonic block is the harmonic block is a very important vocabulary element that I teach. In this case, I'm going to do E flat minor. I'm going to play the root. There's the root. That's home. So as I move through the other places, that's the fifth. Here's the minor third. So magical to really tune into the block, really tune into the root, home and feel it, tune into the fifth and that minor third, which is very different from a major third. Very different feeling. This is deep stuff. It's kind of rooted in physics. It's rooted in the harmonic series. It's rooted in our very sort of essential ability to perceive tonality. Really deep stuff. And then we add the rhythm to that, and I could do a beautiful but very deep and very simple improvisation on that block all over the keys. And it's so blissful and so enjoyable and such a lovely feeling of flow and storytelling and poetry and this quality that's so important. I could practice that for hours and feel really, really good. And that's what it's all about. It's about finding that state, that particular state that I'm showing you there. And this is very important if you want to internalize the principles and elements, really internalize them. Otherwise, they just stay as theory. They don't become practical things that we express ourselves with. So let's have a think about what I'm talking about here. I've got a list of words which I will consult here. I think the feeling of that music that I was playing there is that it is simple. It is simple. It has to be simple in terms of the language that I'm using. So it's simple in its essence. Even though it's all over the keys and it's rich, The language I'm using is very simple. It's very pure, which is a slightly deeper word than simple. I would say that it is unsophisticated. It must be unsophisticated. We've got to let go of our need to be like sophisticated adults, designing sophisticated things that our critical mind says are good. So we're kind of learning to switch off the critical mind, not switch it off, putting the critical mind onto focusing on the principal elements themselves, but not trying to create or design complex music. So it's unsophisticated. My favorite word, it's innocent. There's an innocence to it. Yeah. But also, some nice words here, it's cosmic, it's deep, it's full of awe and wonder. It's timeless, kind of epic. It's resonant. You kind of resonate with it. You tune in and you feel its resonance. It's also got this kind of flowing quality. So it's flowing. This is so important. It's got resonance and it has flow. It's kind of like nature itself in the way that it feels. It's boundless. It's epic. It's universal. And I think that's really important. Universal. Yeah, what a big word. It's universal. We're learning the universal language of music here. We're not learning the language of any particular style or genre of music. We're learning the very basics. So it is a bit like when a child is learning the very basics of their language. Now, obviously, the difficulty as an adult is we understand, as I was saying earlier, we understand music and we understand all these sophisticated genres of music. We have taste. So we have to put that aside. This is what I'm saying. We have to put aside our tastes and allow ourselves to just play with the very, very simple, deep, cosmic, universal principles of music in a way that feels perhaps childish, but I would say it feels kind of deep or maybe meditative. Is it real music that we're playing in that case? Well, I would say it is. It's just not of any particular genre or culture. And even theory, we have to be very careful because different cultures have different theories. So theory is kind of dense. It's too much to think about. We need practical working knowledge. So we have to let go of theory, whether that theory in our mind is classical Western theory, like chords and keys and stuff, or whether it's, Indian classical music, ragas or something. We have to let go of that to learn the universal language of music because it's deeper than even the most basic theory. It's just rhythm cells in the groove structure, the rhythmic matrix, rhythm cells in the matrix, and tonal blocks of notes that work together as units, as discrete units. Blocks of notes, tonal blocks in the tonal map. In this case, the keyboard map, or I was talking about the voice, the vocal map. Of course, every instrument has a map. They're just my two instruments, the voice and the keyboard. Rhythm cells in the groove, tonal blocks in the keyboard map or the vocal map. That's what we're focused on, nothing else. So that's tricky. We have to let go of theory. We have to let go of our tastes. We have to let go of our ideas of what music is, what kind of music we like, and just explore like a child this very, very deep, very simple, very innocent music. It is still real music. It's still music that's is expressive of real feelings, our unique personal feelings. It has to be very personal. It has to be what I feel. There's a kind of magic to it, another word we could use, that it feels kind of magic. It feels, I said cosmic. It feels very deep. When we find this, when we let go of our ideas of how good music should be to be good music, when we let go of that and we just play like a child in this way, as I keep saying, that's when the language internalizes. That's when the progress is quick. That's what I did as a 9-year-old. As a 9-year-old, I was like a little adult. I was trying to enter the mindset of a 5-year-old. I was kind of like a little adult at 9. I think there's some truth in that. But even so, I'm not talking about a child of 9, 10. I'm talking about a child of 4 or 5, or possibly even younger. A kind of sense of wonder that a child of that age has. We have to find that. Music brings that to us naturally, especially the poetic nature of the groove. It brings that quality to us if we let it. We just have to let go of all our ideas of what music is. It's a big ask. It really is a big ask. A lot of my coaching as a teacher is involved with helping people let go of their preconceptions and their ideas of music and just do this work in a really simple, practical way. So as I say, this music that we play is kind of in a way more like a meditation. I think that's an aspect that people are well aware of with music. Obviously, it can bring to mind certain genres, new age music, maybe even computer game music. Some computer game music can be very sort of spacey and very beautiful in this kind of innocent way. I'm not talking about any genre of music really. I'm I'm saying that it's just when we express in this way that this is childlike and deep, it feels meditative. I would say the training is meditative rather than cognitive. We're working on using our brain, but we're using our brain to focus on very simple things as they're happening in real time, to really see them clearly, to perceive them clearly. So it's focus, that's very meditative, and at the same time, letting go, which is also a very meditative thing. And we all acknowledge that music has, I think we all acknowledge, most of us do anyway, that music has this power to bring about hypnotic meditative states. It can be very healing. It can be a very deep experience. So I'm trying to embrace that more in a way as a sort of outward facing, public facing musician. I want to do a new project which will involve some training. Also, it will involve me creating some music that embraces this idea of hypnotic, meditative, healing properties of music. I'm going to call the project Resonant Flow. You know, I'm from Yorkshire, so I tend to like things that, do what it says on the tin type title. So it is Resonant Flow. We feel a resonance, we feel the flow. And I want to sort of really sell this idea hard that we can experience as adults very, very deep states. It's an altered state. It's a state where we are so open, we soften, we open, and the music feels so full of meaning and resonance. Not the music as in, the musical result, the tune, but the actual language itself. Imagine a writer who doesn't love words. They're not going to be such a good writer. It's how you use the words. So it's not about training people to be musicians. I mean, in my training at the moment, it's always about the language. I feel like I'm a language teacher. What they then do with that language, do they become a great poet, as it were? Do they become a great musician? I don't know. I'm not even sure I can teach that bit. I mean, certainly I can have a go, and I enjoy trying to teach it. And I think it's more unlocking. I think when someone is fluent, I get someone fluent, and then we're working on, playing repertoire or composing or producing and stuff like that. It's more of an unlocking still then. It's allowing them, giving them the permission to be bold and daring and to be creative. I'm not sure you can force someone to be creative. You can't give them, specific input. Their creativity is theirs. It's their own. And training people to use music as a sort of tool for meditation, for healing, for transformation, still with fluency at its core, I think is a very interesting adjunct to what I'm currently doing. So I'm definitely going to do it. And I'm definitely, as my students will tell you, people who've learned one-to-one with me will tell you, that kind of is what it's about. It's about finding that state. So I don't know if you're someone who's bought my materials, or you're thinking of buying my materials, or you're just curious about what I do. This is it. This is. I'm trying to give you an insight into what's required. It's a meditative, very open. You soften and you open and you feel deeply. You feel inwardly this resonant flow. You feel the way that the music unfolds and tells stories like a child would listen to a fairy story full of wonder. That state is necessary for practicing in this way.